I want to show you something here. Now I'm gonna have to look in the mirror to get this perfectly straight. This is a straight metal rod. And here's what the doctor, if you look closely, I'm trying to not put the camera into my view. I'm trying to get this as perfect as you can see. The ear, nose, and throat specialist, the doctor that I went to in 1994. Now that is as straight as I can get. Keep it. You'll see how the cartilage is to my right, I believe. Anyway, you can see it. How off-center the cartilage in my nose is. Now to my left, the doctor, he took a real bright, I'm sorry, coughing. He took a real bright instrument and went up each nostril. And after he examined me, he said, "You're blocked." He took his finger and tapped on my nose. So I would be blocked. To me, it bends right. So you can see you can see how far it's bent. And the doctor asked me, I think he said I was blocked on the left. He took his finger and tapped. I think he tapped on my left side, but you can see what he's talking about. Then he asked me the question. I just ate a granola bar. It's got that oatmeal in it, and I just drunk my last pop. I should have stopped at Kroger before I come here, but I didn't, and I didn't get no water. So I'm sorry if I cough. I still got a little oatmeal in my throat. Anyway, back to this. I'm trying to keep that rod as straight as possible, but you can see what the doctor was talking about. Now, after he examined me, and it was actually during the specialist, like I said, ear, nose, and throat specialist, he asked me, he didn't say I was born. He asked me, did your mom, and I quote him, did your mom ever drop you when you was an infant or baby? Kind of shocked me when he asked me that. I said, I don't know. I don't think so. I called her that evening, and she said, I couldn't remember. Or she said, and I quote her, I can't remember. But one time, I'm keeping this as straight. As I talk, I don't want to move my hand. So you can diagnose yourself. You can diagnose me yourself. But one time, my Aunt Bobby told me, this seemed like my mom said something about it some years ago, but about a year before my Aunt Bobby died, let me take that, you've seen it long enough, right? Before my Aunt Bobby died, I won't name names, but apparently my drunk uncle, I don't know if he picked me out of my baby crib or not, or what, but he was drunk. And apparently, I keep emphasizing the word apparently, my Aunt Bobby was a very trustworthy person. So I'm taking it, this is true. But anyway, my uncle apparently tossed me up in the air. And I just wonder if that, when he was tossed me up in the air, again, this metal rod, trying to keep it straight as possible so you can see how much it's bent. I don't know if maybe as a baby I flipped and maybe landed on his arm. And when you're an infant, this is very, very soft. Now, if I ever have surgery done, and as you can see, according to this metal rod, how bent the nose is of mine, boy, have I suffered. Anyway, if after surgery, the doctor would tell me, the doctor in 1994 told me it was excessive force. He didn't say excessive force, but when the doctor asks you, did your mom ever drop, that's excessive force. But if the doctor ever tells me that maybe my uncle tossing me up in the air is excessive force, how did my aunt get me as a baby? And I was born February 26, 1963. I don't know, how long after that he got a hold of me, but he was tossing me up in the air. But if I'd ever have surgery, and if the doctor would say 90% it was caused by that, don't know. I would be upset. I would be very angry. But as you can see what the doctor was talking about, again, I'll hold that rod perfectly straight. I want to keep the camera below so I can see in the mirror. You can see how much it's bent. That's caused me a lot of problems, people. About 2 years ago, now he gave me some spray. Now my uncle said probably not, because my uncle and my dad come up to see me. And in 1994, the doctor gave me a prescription spray trial, and I sprayed several times up each nostril, and it was kind of strong. Well, it was prescription spray, and it was supposed to break out loose. Anyway, it never did, and here about 2 years ago, something broke loose because the waterish yellow mucus, not snotty, no, it's pure water, but it was real sticky, come out my nose. Ever since then, 95% when I wake up, I'm free to breathe. But every now and then, 5% of the time I wake up, I'm still a little stopped up, especially if my blood pressure raises. See, that's bent. And that's causing my glands here in my nose to excessive secretion. Now, I ain't got no runny nose because it stays all up here because it's swelled. As you can see, it's bent. It's bent. It's been miserable for me. And just like 2 years ago, it broke loose. And 95% of the time when I wake up, I can breathe. Right now, my mouth is closed. Let me close my mouth. I want to close my mouth and you listen. Little restriction. Well, because, my blood pressure's up because I'm awake and I'm alert and I'm talking to you. Now, sometimes 95% when I wake up, that breathing is even more free than that. And I've never been able to breathe that free. I even asked a doctor in 1994. I always thought it was sinuses. He said, no. He said, you're blocked. He said, you're blocked. Had real bright light, an instrument, and he went up. He actually pushed hard. It was probably a scope. He pushed hard up. He's a doctor. He pushed hard up each nostril, and after he did that, he said, you're blocked. Then he says, do you have any knowledge? That's what he said. Do you have any knowledge of your mom dropping you when you was a baby or an infant? So I said, here's what I told him. I said, I'll call. I had to call her long distance. I'll call that evening, and if she did, I'll call your secretary. That's the deal I made with him. He said, okay, fine. If I don't call, that means she has no knowledge of dropping me. It's either that or my drunk uncle. Now, when my mom was a little kid, she had bad scarlatina. Scarlatina is characterized by high fever, and when she was a little girl in the old days, there was no cure for it. She had a lot of high fever, and you guessed it, a birth defect. The doctor didn't say that. He said excessive force. I don't know. It's one of three things. Well, two. Mom says she didn't drop. Not that you remember if he dropped a baby, emergency room. So mom didn't drop me. So it's either my drunk uncle or it's a birth defect. Whew. Been miserable, folks. Let me put the camera down a little bit, angle it, so you can really see how bent it is. See there? It's as straight as I can keep that metal spoke. Straight as I can. It's a gauge. See how bent it is? The doctor was right.